How we doing? It's Matt O'Neill reporting to you from beautiful southeast Nebraska on the Coastal Collision podcast, where World Star Hip Hop meets NPR, California meets Florida in a Midwest showdown. We are talking what's going on out there in this beautiful United States and around the world, giving you some background noise to get you through your daily grind. I'm with my co-host and now ex-teammate, D-trill, a.k.a. the Tampa Trap Star, Dylan Williams. Dylan, how's your weekend, bud?
It's pretty good. Saw Tom Brady, just absolutely dominate in that fourth quarter against the much-hated Atlanta Falcons. It's pretty good, though. How was your weekend, Matt?
Not too bad, a lot of just hanging out with the roommates and kicking it.
There we go.
So let's get right into it with the inauguration of Donald Trump. Not necessarily recent news, but literally all anyone is talking about. What did you think of the ceremony?
I thought it was huge. No, but I didn't get to watch as much of the ceremony as I would have liked to. I think we had like running or a meeting or something like that. But I did get a chance to see kind of the end, like when they had the parade and then some of the concerts they had. And a buddy of mine that's actually stationed in Maryland at I think it's Bethesda or whatever it's called, the big Navy base up there. He was actually at the military ball that they had for the inauguration. He said he had a blast there. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good time. I was watching it. I was in my bedroom back at the house, and my buddy Crawton came in, and we kind of just watched it and kind of just watched history. I mean, as displeased that I was that he was actually elected, it was kind of a huge deal watching him get sworn in. Yeah. In Florida, though, did you see the mass support of Donald Trump, or was it kind of 50-50 like Election Day kind of showed?
It really just depends on who you ask. If you were to ask people who lived out in the more rural areas, there's nothing but Trump supporters. But if you were to ask any of the Hispanic or other minority voters, they would have told you that Trump was possibly the worst candidate ever. So they had nothing but good things to say about Hillary. So
yeah, coming from the absolutely the bluest state possible, there was definitely a huge. It was divided down the middle pretty hard. There was very little moderation to any choice. It was either you were a hardcore DJT supporter or you were HRC all the way, and there was not much middle ground. It got pretty divisive. Now, do you see a difference between, like, the Floridians and the Midwesterners in regard to him? In other words, like, are Trump supporters and Hillary supporters different in the Midwest than they are in Tampa?
I would honestly think so. The reason why somebody would vote for Hillary up here will not necessarily be the same reason why somebody votes for Hillary in Florida, for example. Just using an example, there's a lot of Cuban refugees in Florida. And they were not a huge fan of, possibly, building a border wall or the uncertainty of Trump continuing the policy of once you step foot in the United States from Cuba, you're allowed in. But there was a lot of uncertainty about that, and so I think they would have voted for Hillary, for reasons like that. If they got here, through that policy, who's to say Trump's not going to get rid of it? And they're going to, they want to keep that policy in place, obviously, for future family members or friends or whatever. But I think somebody in the Midwest who voted for Hillary would have voted for her just because of experience, stuff like that. All the good qualities that made her such a qualified candidate.
I would definitely say that's true. I think the biggest pro for both candidates would be Hillary was a more qualified
Absolutely.
Candidate. Donald was more of a renegade, overthrow the system kind of deal, which I can see the appeal. Everyone can see the appeal. When you're around United States politics enough, you get kind of that feeling of nothing is getting done.
Yeah.
When it's really just a really slow, gradual democratic process. And I think the cons for both candidates being. One was dishonest, and one was just wildly, unpolished, I would say.
Yeah, they were both like possibly the two were. This election was probably the worst election we've ever had.
I mean, yeah, and it's what a first election. I mean, we got to kind of go into.
It literally came down to a douche and a turd, like on South Park. Like
they stopped doing.
I saw that
because
they stopped
the satire is now
it's real life now.
Real life,
so
which is ironic. It's always fun when the creators of one of the most successful shows ever kind of see the irony in the entire situation. But let's move away from politics just a little bit, and let's talk about what you were talking about in the very beginning of the podcast, the Super Bowl.
Hell yeah.
The biggest event of the weekend by far, Tom Brady and the Pats overcoming the largest Super Bowl deficit in history and coming back from 25 points down to defeat Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and the Atlanta Falcons. What is the most memorable part of that game for you?
It has to be overtime for me personally. Yeah, I could say the Edelman catch. That was huge. We haven't seen a catch that good since David Tyree did it against the Patriots in 2007.
Yep.
But honestly, that drive in overtime, like when the Patriots got the ball first in overtime, you just knew they were going to win that game on that drive.
Absolutely.
Like that game was over before overtime even started.
Yeah, I mean, Brady was hitting the turf all night in the first half. Atlanta's defensive front four really getting after it. And you just didn't see that pass rush. I think they got tired. They got a little worn down towards the end of that game, and that allowed that incredible Brady offense to come back and kind of just get back into that game. So with that being said, is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback of all time?
Absolutely. I can't logically... I actually got into an argument with a kid in class yesterday about Joe Montana versus Brady. I'm still blown away that we're having this conversation still. Like, I'm a diehard Miami Dolphins fan, but I will go to my grave saying that Tom Brady is the greatest of all time.
I would agree with that. I mean, I think you have to at this point. 5 rings, a major contributor in every single one of those rings.
Well, we can't forget about the fact either that he's played in the league now for 16 seasons, and he's made 7 Super Bowls in 16 seasons.
Incredible.
That's unfathomable. It's literally every other year he's made the Super Bowl.
I'd say the only quarterback that would probably be that consistent in kind of making a reoccurring trip to the Super Bowl would be Terry Bradshaw with going.
I think he only played like 12 seasons, but he made 4.
Made 4. It's incredible. But Tom Brady winning 5, finally getting that handful of jewels that he's been looking for.
And what's crazy about that too is he could very realistically play another 3 or 4 seasons.
Absolutely,
he's in such great shape.
I don't think he's done. I don't think he's done
not.
at all.
I know his wife and kids want him to retire. There was something about Giselle wants him to.
Too bad, babe.
Yeah. Tommy football's not finished.
No, he's not at all, dude. So the Falcons essentially blew a 3-1 lead.
Absolutely.
All right. They are the Golden State Warriors of the National Football League right now. Where do you think the breakdown was in the second half? Where did Atlanta go wrong?
For one, they had to play the Patriots. That's where they went wrong from the beginning. That's just the team. Like with Bill Belichick's coaching and his assistant coaches and Brady. It's just not a team you want to bet against or play against for that matter because it is a very hard team to beat. That being said, in the second half, they just seemed so lackadaisical. Like they thought they'd already won the game. But the Patriots, again, going back to their coaching, they stayed in it till the very end, and it paid off.
Yeah.
So
reminds me of the Peru State Bobcats when they played Mid-America Nazarene last year, coming from 17 points down. Not nearly as important as that game, though. Moving on, keeping with the NFL, though, Colts punter Pat McAfee. Is it McAfee or McAfee?
I was running the same thing.
I've been reading that.
McAfee, McAfee.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
But
the Colts punter.
he joined Barstool Sports to basically fuck around and do a podcast like we are doing right here. Do you think that's the wisest decision?
Yes and no. No, because he's missing on a lot of money. Yes, because as a creative person, I totally get where he's coming from, Like, you get more enjoyment out of making other people laugh and brightening their day than you do from, making or playing sports and stuff like
100%
that.
agree.
I would rather do this for a living than have anything to do with football the rest of my life.
Absolutely. So. No, absolutely. I feel that. So, being in the league for 7 years, like Pat was, he had to abide by the NFL banned substance rules. Recently, though, he came out and said that he tried Adderall for the first time and understands why it's a PED. Do you think now, since he has a taste for Adderall, Wes Welker will come on his segment on Barstool and do a couple rails of Addy and shoot the shit?
Well, you boys at Barstool, if you're listening to this, I pray you guys bring him on there. Let's have a Wes Welker and Pat McAfee, whatever. Wes Welker and the Colts' former punter do a segment where they just do Addy for a couple hours and talk about football. And
shoot the shit, build some furniture,
awesome.
And build some furniture, and
do some arts and crafts.
Knock
out it too.
Knock out a semester's worth of paperwork in a night.
There we go.
Now, one of the biggest questions regarding our sport, I know we played on the same team for 3 years, 2 years?
2.5.
2.5. One of the biggest questions is, are kickers really football players?
Oh, that's... I would say so, just because, they do occasionally get in the action a little bit. Like Matt Bosher, when he played for the University of Miami, I saw him make about 7 or 8 tackles against the Florida Gators in the game once. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. I think he led the team in tackles that game. But they were also punting. I think they punted 20 times that game or whatever. But that's beside the point. Kickers are definitely real players. I don't think they get the respect they deserve most of the time because. They can literally win or lose you a game just off of one play.
Yeah.
So.
There's a sign in the window of a South Carolina business with a now hiring sign, and the only issue was a line underneath the sign stating, minorities need not apply. Now, do you think this is a blatant racial statement, or do you think businesses are well within its rights to refuse hire to minorities?
That's very obviously super racist. There's nothing about that that's not racist.
Yeah.
That's literally just saying, hey, you're black or Mexican. Fuck you. I don't want you to work for me.
Blows me away. It blows me away that we're still kind of struggling with even hiring people of different colors or creeds. It's
2017 for Christ's sakes. You guys took down the Confederate flag last year. You should be kind of moving on those steps just a little bit faster by now.
Now, you as a conservative know that some conservatives are fighting and passing legislation, particularly through executive order, to be able to hire based on sexual orientation. How does that differ from this situation, hiring or selling someone based on skin color or sexual orientation?
I do know that Trump is continuing one of Obama's executive orders, which was to protect LGBT rights for companies. You can't refuse to hire somebody based off of their sexual orientation. That it's messed up. You can't do that. So I don't really think there is that huge of a difference between not hiring somebody because they're black or not hiring somebody because they're gay. I think we just need to hire the most qualified people for each jobs, which it kind of goes back to to affirmative action, which for the longest time was something we absolutely needed in this country. But I think at this point we although are there still racial divides and tensions? Absolutely, you see it every day. But I think at this point in the in our country, the best thing to do would be to hire off of merit or.
I agree. Yeah. No, I completely agree. There's not a big difference between someone's race and someone's sexual orientation, is what I'm saying. Is you're not picking either one. You're born with one or you're born with the other. There's no way you're choosing to lead a lifestyle where you're being actively discriminated against.
Yeah.
There's not a chance. As for this business owner, I think it's fucking shameful.
Absolutely.
I think you're scum. But I also have a love for the First Amendment. I have a love for our Constitution of this great United States.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you really need to reevaluate yourself on this matter. If you're hiring someone based on the color of your skin. And I think we can leave it at that for that one. I think you're fucking scum, guy
absolutely.
From South Carolina.
It's bull.
Next up, we're going to talk about The Wall. All right. Came out last week that we are indeed paying for the wall, separating us and our amigos down south. As a Floridian, you don't see much Mexican immigration as I do in Southern California, but you do see quite a bit of immigration from other island nations like Haiti or Cuba. Do you think the wall is the answer we are looking for to this immigration problem?
Absolutely not. First of all, it's a huge waste of money. I can't logically think of any reason why we would spend that much money. I mean, because there's other ways to get to the United States besides.
You can go over it.
Yeah, you can go over it. You can go the cartels have been going underneath our fences and walls for years now.
Through the mountains.
I don't think that's going to stop them. You can also take boats, because there's this thing called the Gulf of Mexico, which goes from Mexico and Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, part of Georgia, I think, too. No, Georgia.
Georgia may touch it.
I don't know. They don't. They don't, actually. No.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's a really stupid idea. And I'm a huge Trump supporter, too. So that's kind of surprising to some, maybe. But the wall is just idiotic. Like, I honestly cannot fathom.
I think most people are like you in that sense, where they think the wall is a disastrous idea. While you were voting for the man, I'm wondering if you didn't vote. But I'm wondering why voters thought he wasn't gonna capitalize on campaign promises. I don't understand why we voted for someone and then we're surprised when he does something that he said he was gonna do.
Well, I think part of it goes back to that old adage about politicians literally never follow through with what they're gonna say.
Never. Yeah. No. Traditionally, that's the case.
And Trump, he kind of double backed on a few things. I think he changed his opinion on abortion 8 times in a week. We don't really know. I mean, he defunded Planned Parenthood, but I think that was more of a push to stop abortion, or I don't really know. The guy is all over the place.
It's hard to keep up with the man, but we're gonna come back to the abortion thing at some point during these episodes. We have to. I mean, it's kind of necessary.
What do you think of the wall, though?
What do I think of the wall? I think it's the biggest waste of money.
Oh, absolutely.
In the world. I think it's like a 12-year-old's reaction to someone wanting to play with them is no, we're gonna build a wall. We're gonna keep all the other kids out of the playground. I think it's just such a childish way to deal with an immigration policy that's so clearly broken in this country that it takes people 7 years and thousands of dollars and go through tests to get into this country. It's such a busted system, and it's kind of like painting the wall to fix the oven. We're not doing what we need to be doing to fix a problem that's really apparent and it's really hurting this country.
Well, if you look at the numbers anyways, we were talking about this in one of my classes the other day. The numbers of immigrants coming into the United States from Mexico has actually been going down each year. So, building a wall at this point is kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a wound that's almost already healed.
Right.
Yeah, there's it's kind of gonna help, but it's not really.
Yeah.
It's not gonna have any long-term drastic impact other than wasting a Band-Aid.
Yeah. Now, did you think, like many other voters, that Mexico was actually gonna pay for this wall?
No, I knew for a fact they were never gonna pay for it.
Not a shot, dude. Not a shot.
That would be like if your neighbor built a fence around his yard to keep you out and then asked you to pay for it.
Yeah, dude, if someone knocked on my door and said, hey, I built this fence around my house, I need you to pay for it, I would fucking sock that kid.
I would just tell you, no, fuck you.
I would, get out of here. What are you, get away from me.
What's your problem?
And that's exactly what the president of Mexico did. President Nieto, he straight up was I'm not going to meet with you. First week of office, I'm not going to meet with you.
Don't blame him whatsoever.
Not at all. Not at all, dude. The dude's out here wilding, expecting people to pay for shit that he's building. It's wild. Now, how many illegal immigrants do you think are going to be building this wall. They're going to participate in the construction of this wall.
It's going to be way higher than I think we'd like to admit.
Yeah.
Especially because they are like I have uncles that work in the construction industry, and they've lost out to illegal immigrants on jobs before because you can pay them like $4 in a Dr. Pepper an hour.
Yeah.
And
they're the hardest workers you'll ever have. I have like you said, I also have friends. Their parents are contractors, own their own businesses, hire illegal immigrants, and they're the hardest workers they'll ever have. And I don't have to pay them. I pay them under the table. I think they still get $10 an hour in California because it's honestly unreasonable to pay anything else. Because
California is
it's just
expensive.
Yeah, it's just you can't live there. You can't live there if you're not making like $15 an hour. That's why that's the big push for the whole minimum wage thing is like
in a state like California, I could certainly understand that, but somewhere where the cost of living is much cheaper, like where I live in Florida, like a gallon of a gallon of milk is like $2, like $2.50. Like I'm not gonna need $15 an hour to be able to make a living there, especially when you can rent a 4-bedroom 2-bath house for like $800-900 a month.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously cheap.
It is. No, it's ridiculous, and it's like here. Like, do I in Peru, Nebraska? Do I need $15 an hour to sustain?
Oh hell
no. Because my house is $200 to rent a month plus utilities, which is ridiculous.
Which I split with roommates anyways.
Exactly.
I pay like $50 a month in utilities. I don't need that much money.
Yeah.
I would go stupid if I had that kind of money.
Yeah. No, I would be dead. I'd be dead if I had that kind of money. And I lived in Peru, Nebraska. I'd be dead. I would be
at the bar every week.
No doubt. There's nothing else to do here. If we had $15, if we had money to blow, there'd be nothing else to do here except drink yourself into a stupor.
Zach, if you're listening to this, you should give us a little discount.
Absolutely, that's for sure. Zach's Bar and Grill. All right, downtown Peru, Nebraska. We love it. Hopefully, our first sponsor for the show. Lastly, let's go on to the immigration ban. All right, Trump signed an executive order banning immigrants from 7 countries from entering the U.S. There has been talk that it is religiously motivated. Do you think that is the case?
I mean, it'd be hard to say that it's not the case, honestly. I think a little more goes into it than that. First of all, I don't think we banned the right countries. Like Saudi Arabia wasn't on the list, which, they're kind of responsible for the whole 9/11 thing.
Oh, that thing?
Yeah,
that happened a couple years ago?
Yeah, just a couple thousand Americans dead.
Never forget.
Never. In case you're wondering, for those of you who don't know, that's the reason why we have giant flags before football games on the field. Kind of a show of patriotism, flyovers and stuff like that. Huge waste of money.
Bang, America.
Oh yeah,
we love it.
America.
We love it.
But no, it's absolutely. I mean, I doubt we'll ever see a ban on Christian majority countries, like Brazil or Colombia, stuff like that. Yeah.
You don't see a ban on Christian countries, which I can't see it either. I mean, we are without a doubt unofficially a Christian nation.
Absolutely.
We say we are kind of the land of the free and we came here for religious freedoms, but ultimately we are a Christian nation even if you don't want to admit it. And I don't want to admit it either, but it's the dominant thing. It's kind of like the majority rules concept of it. I think there's less to do with religion on this ban than this the bleeding heart liberals think.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot less to do with it. I think it's more about Donald Trump sticking with the securing our country.
Yeah.
It's taking the whole immigration thing on a globalized scale. I think it's also trying to take pressure off of our little stunt with Mexico on the wall. But I do think it is a lot less religiously motivated than we think it is.
Yeah.
It is a pretty big coincidence that Saudi Arabia, I think, was Egypt not on the ban?
Yeah, Egypt wasn't on there either.
Okay, two primary elements of
the
the last terrorist attack is not on the ban with Trump businesses in all of those countries.
Yeah.
But I think this ban has a lot to do with just kind of slowing down immigration as he's kind of getting into office and keeping with those campaign promises. And as he was on the trails, he did spew, I mean, it was pretty anti like Muslim rhetoric. But I think he is trying to back away from that now. I do think that was kind of to stir up his core group of kind of like loyal Trump supporters. I think that's, you know, and every political leader does that. They do something that satisfies the base.
Yeah.
That gets them reelected because they satisfy the base. And I think that's more about that than it is about just keeping all the Muslims out or the radical Islamic terrorists. Because in this country there has been more domestic terrorism than anything in the past 15 years.
Which I'm pretty sure there's an executive order he signed recently that like removed certain like white supremacist groups from like the list of potential domestic terrorists.
Yeah.
And I did not agree with that.
That's
whatsoever.
wild. That's wild.
Any group that promotes hate like that should be considered a threat to possibly commit domestic terrorism.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. And this isn't the first case that a president has banned a certain group from coming in here. Certainly isn't. In 2011, Barack Obama banned any citizen from Iraq from entering the country. How can we help both refugees fleeing awful situations, yet keeping our country secure? Is it more about vetting people more harshly? Because I feel like we're vetting people fine. I mean, like I said, most, if not all of our terrorism within the 15 years has been domestic. So what should we take to both keep our country secure and allow people to really pursue the American dream?
I think we need to continue vetting, like they were talking about. I don't know if you remember this summer, but in Germany they had like 7 or 8 terrorist attacks this summer caused by refugees, and that was a huge reason why Trump got elected. You know, Hillary talked about how she admired Angela Merkel, and Merkel was letting all these refugees in who are just going crazy and causing all these attacks. And I think a lot of people are just like, no, we can't have that here.
It's such a fine line. It's so we're all just tiptoeing, kind of wanting to be that country that keeps everyone here, that is inclusive, that is that melting pot, but also, you know, being concerned about, you know, your house, your neck
I
of
have
the
no
woods.
problem if we were to take in as many refugees as we possibly could, as long as we took care of we still have Vietnam vets who are homeless and living on the streets, and that war was 50 years ago.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you mentioned that, is because I saw something on
there's a meme about that
Facebook about, and I posted it, and I said it was something along the lines of, it's funny how people can care for refugees and not care about our homeless veterans that are still lining the streets, and it's such a narrow-minded vision of it all, because it's saying that one can't possibly want to help both immigrants and veterans. It's saying, oh, you pick one side or the other, and it's so not black and white like that.
No, I totally agree with that. But there's so many refugees out there, like, you know, like little kids who are probably going to have a really messed up life now because people they don't know are killing each other over something they don't care about. And their entire home and livelihood and families have been destroyed because of that. And so now they're sitting in some refugee camp in like Greece or, you know, just some European, Eastern or Southern European country, not really knowing where they are, not really knowing where they're going, but they just know that they don't have anything at all, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's an absolute shame that we can't do more to help them. Especially if we're going to spend all this money building the wall. Yeah. You know, Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, is people will say, like, you know, why can't we help all these people? And the main answer is financials, but then we look at the financials of what we're spending money on.
Yeah.
We're spending $30 billion on a wall. The people of Flint, Michigan, like you said, don't have clean drinking water
It
still.
would cost like a tenth of how much it costs to build the wall to give them clean water.
Yeah.
But no, that's too much.
Well, I think that'll do it for the podcast this week. I like to close this episode with what we're banging musically this week. I'm a huge hip-hop fan. I like all music, really. But ever since I was 11 years old, my father showed me my first Eminem music video, and I absolutely fell in love. This week I'm banging Culture, all right? The new Migos album, T-Shirt and Slippery, gotta be my two favorite tracks. I'd love to hear what you guys are all bumping out there, so hit me on Twitter at MattO'Neil62 or Matt O'Neil on Facebook. What's the slap of the week for you, D-trill?
That would have to be Moves by Big Sean. Been listening to it for a few weeks now, but that song is just stupid hard, honestly.
Honestly, the whole Sean album has surprised me quite a bit.
I was actually disappointed in Eminem's verse on what song was he on? It was
I don't know, but I know every white person came up to me and said Eminem and Big Sean have a song, and I immediately wanted to go home and listen to it.
And it's just not very memorable to me, honestly. It just like I understand his message. I'm not hating on him because I disagree with his political views or whatever. I just dislike how all he talks about is like taking a piss on people and stuff like that. It's childish. You're one of the greatest lyricists of all time, and that's the best you can come up with. Come on, that's.
Step your game up, Em. Step your game up.
If you're listening to this, I challenge you to a rap battle.
Excellent stuff. Look forward to coming back next week and killing it. But until then, no matter where you're from, live the dream.